What's up, guys? Let's talk a little Lakers basketball going forward, what the future, what that might look like. I know the Lakers are a pretty heavily covered team, but figured I would throw in my opinion. Not an expert, armchair expert, I guess you could call me. But, I had a couple thoughts. Might be a little alternative to the popular opinion. But, yeah, I think the Lakers are in a really interesting position, especially going forward for the future of the franchise. Obviously, any team that has LeBron on it, it's more the LeBron show than it is about the team itself. First off, the elephant in the room is whether or not LeBron is coming back this offseason. Obviously, he's got the player option. Seems like that's definitely going to be declined. With that, leaves a lot of question marks. If he does come back, what does that look like and mean for the Lakers going forward? I've seen a lot of smoke around the idea of Trae Young being traded to the Lakers. Seems to be a lot of interest in the Lakers in that idea if LeBron comes back. But really, I wanted to kind of look at what would be the alternative, say LeBron decides to go somewhere else. I seen some interesting information not too long ago about, it may be nothing, but it was talking about LeBron going to watch games of other teams, and I think they were talking about how when he was on the Heat, he went to a Cavs game for Ilgauskas jersey retirement. Everybody wanted to play it off as, not that big of a deal. Turns out he goes to the Cavs afterwards. But I seen that and thought that was interesting. Wanted to propose the idea of, maybe this is a chance for the Lakers to really reset things. Because if you look at it, in my opinion, best case scenario, you get, if LeBron does stay, maybe you can pull off a trade to get Trae Young. You give up, let's say, 2 first-round picks, mortgaging the future on that. Then you're going to throw in Rui Hachimura and maybe Reeves, whatever it would take for Atlanta to take that offer. And they're going to have a fair amount of competition, I think, for Trae Young, because a lot of teams are looking for kind of a guard creator. It seemed like something that used to be a surplus of, and now it's not as many out to be got, because a lot of people are looking at more of the long, very versatile forwards, kind of the shorter, explosive scoring guard. It's kind of falling out of favor for more, 6'7", 6'8", 220, Jason Tatum types, LeBron types, but more of well-rounded with shooting. And so in this situation, the Lakers are going to have to give up a respectable amount of stuff to get a player in Trae Young who, while is a very effective scorer, is kind of a not great for your team's defense, which the Lakers in the past couple of seasons have been a good defensive team, and especially when they won the title a couple years ago, that was kind of their staple, was a big defensive tough team. So, Trae Young can definitely help out on the side of creating some offense for them, and saving a little of the effort LeBron would have to carry on the offense. But for me, if Trae Young's the best that they can manage, maybe Donovan Mitchell. For me, I don't think it matters. I think the West is so tough, and you have the Celtics, congrats to them for just winning the title. But, those are really good teams, and you still got the Nuggets out in the West. Timberwolves are up and coming. So, as far as my opinion on it, if I was the Lakers, I would look to, here's a chance. If LeBron walks, everyone was talking about it. I think there's somewhat of a point. You couldn't really trade LeBron. I mean, it's never happened. Probably is never going to happen. So you got a chance here. If he walks, wants to go try something new, chase the title. From what I can tell, it doesn't look like he's going to take a major pay cut to go to a team like the Suns. I think Rich Paul, his agent, recently came out and said he wouldn't be taking a minimum deal with a team like Phoenix, which that'd be a messy fit anyways, but it's neither here nor there. Let's say he walks, takes on a new challenge, then you still got some good assets, on the roster. I mean, Anthony Davis, 31 years old, still, arguably is the best player on the Lakers at this point. Injuries, always going to be a big question mark with them. But when he's playing, you're talking about the bona fide 2 at the worst, and a pretty effective 1, especially if he can stay healthy. So that's someone, in my opinion, LeBron moves on. Your probably best thing for your future would be to move on from AD as well, even though he's still going to be a really effective player for at least the next, 3 seasons, barring a major injury. But so there you go. You got AD. You can at least get minimum of 2 first-round picks, maybe up to 3 or 4. The problem with him may come with his contract, where he's got a couple years coming up here where it's going to be, let me take a look. I think he's pushing, 2025, 26 season, $60 million, 26, 27, $65 million, 27, 28, $70 million, and 24, 25 contract. He actually has an opt-out option, which if LeBron leaves, you could pretty safely bet that he's may or may not, depending on injuries, may or may not pick up that option. So that kind of puts you in a situation where this upcoming season, you're going to need to trade him, and you're going to get pretty good value with the salary cap was always raising. So that contract, even though it's huge numbers, it's going to be less and less impactful. And if you're getting a bona fide 2 or 1, and let's say he keeps that same contract, agrees with the next team, you got a really good player for at least the next 3 seasons, and even towards the back end of that worst case scenario, he's a all NBA defender, still putting up 15 to 20 points a game. So in my opinion, that's a pretty good asset. Like I said, you get a couple first round picks, you get some young players just from him alone. Then you got D'Lo. D'Lo's kind of that smaller, explosive scoring guard, but he's, as we've seen throughout the years, very hit and miss. Kind of needs the ball to be effective. I think with D'Lo, teams will certainly be interested. You could get some, at least maybe a first round pick, maybe more, and that's a pretty good starting point for a player, that's pretty, I would say, polarizing as far as people's opinion on his effect on winning. So you move off D'Lo, get you a first, maybe pick up a bad contract, maybe get a couple seconds along with that. The trade market value for players is always changing depending on, who needs what. Then you go down the list. You got Rui Hachimura. He's on contract for the next 2 seasons at least. Not a bad contract. It seems like this past season has kind of, the public opinion on him, not as high on him as people were initially when he was having some good contributions in the playoffs. A player, though, that, has that versatile skill set that I was talking about before, where you're going to get a forward that's pretty good size, can do a lot of things, can shoot, can play some good defense, would be effective for competitive teams that are pushing for the playoffs. So, you get maybe a first for him, especially from contending teams on that lower contract. Maybe get a young player thrown in, pretty good value. Reeves seems to be a fair amount of interest in him around the league. I mean, another one of those kind of bigger, versatile guard, forward hybrids that does a little bit of everything for you. Could be what I think would be a really effective sixth man for a team that needs someone to come off the bench, give him a little bit of scoring, kind of carry the load on offense. I could see him going for more value than Hachimura or D'Lo. Same age as Hachimura, a couple years younger than D'Lo, so you're still getting, some improvement. He's on contract for the next 2 seasons with the player option towards the end. And you got a player like Gabe Vincent, which, not the best contract considering what he's contributing. Former Heat player, good shooter. Probably get a little bit. Maybe you just hang on to him, for a season or two. Let him polish up his numbers with some extra minutes. Then you trade him for even more value than what you could probably get at this current time. Vanderbilt, I think a player like Vanderbilt's, especially with teams like the Celtics with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, I mean, teams just can't get enough of those wing effective defenders. And Vanderbilt's really just one of those guys that you can just throw on a great player like that, say, hey, do your best, and he can definitely, at minimum, be an annoyance to them. So that's an asset for sure that I think you could get some stuff for. Or it's another one, you got him under contract until 2027, 28 season. So maybe they want to hang on to him, let him play. He's still only 25. If his offense improves a little bit, then there you go. You're getting stocks just going to keep going up. Not a bad contract at all. I mean, he's on the books for $10 million next year, 11 the next, 12 the next. Not a bad contract at all, especially for a defensive specialist that has some room to improve. And you got Taurean Prince, very likely, unless LeBron stays, that he will move on free agency, find a contender that kind of needs a wing scorer. Then you got some players like Hood Schifino, young guy. Don't see them moving him in the situation that we're talking about where they blow it up. See what you got in him. Maybe you can trade him down the road. Maybe he turns into a cornerstone. Then you got Christian Wood, who has a player option. Haven't seen anything either way of whether or not he's going to pick it up. It's crazy because, a couple seasons ago, Christian Wood on the Pistons, pretty high valued. I mean, not crazy, but, solid player teams would like to have on their roster. Goes to the Rockets, doesn't work out quite how they were expecting it to. Then, here he is on the Lakers, kind of this piece to throw in there, can't hurt type of player. So I could definitely, they might give him a cheap couple-year deal, see if they can get any value for him going forward. Then you got Jackson Hayes, still a young guy. I think he would be somebody worth trying to get on a cheaper deal, couple years. Could be an asset in the future. Cam Reddish the same way. A lot of hype around Cam Reddish. Not much has turned out, but that's how some players are. But he's still only 24 years old. I mean, give him 4 years, he might be a really solid rotation piece for a playoff contending team or just a team in general. Then you get Max Christie. I could see them definitely giving him an extension. See what they got in him. No point of trading away a player like that, 21 years old. Let's see what you got in him. Dinwiddie, probably going to walk. Then you got kind of a couple players that aren't really super significant. after that. But I mean, in a situation like this, I think you get the chance to load up on some assets. You're gonna have, I don't know, minimum, I think 4 to 5 first round picks out of your top, let's say top 5 players after LeBron. I mean, AD, D'Lo, Rory, Reeves, Vanderbilt. If you trade those guys, I mean, I think you're minimum looking 4 to 5 first round picks, a couple young guys, and then you can kind of look at a team similar to like what OKC did, where they just traded it away, got a bunch of assets, get maybe one player that's kind of ascending back for one of those major players, and then see what turns out with them. I mean, you can never have enough draft picks, although you've seen teams like Danny Ainge when he was managing the Celtics, kind of stockpile and never really turn it into anything until Brad Stevens took over. It's interesting though. I mean, you're looking at 4 or 5 first round picks extra. You get to keep yours. I believe they're only missing, 2025 they owe to New Orleans, and then 27 is their own if it lands in the top 5. Falls from 5 to 30, then it's Utah. But I mean, they have their own 26. They got the 17th this year. You got the 28, 29, and 30th still all under them, and they have a couple second round picks mixed in from other teams, swaps, So that's really not a bad set of stuff going forward. I mean, if you look at them now, I mean, if LeBron stays, what are you fighting for necessarily? Let's say you get Trae Young. You might make it. I mean, you never know in the playoffs. Some teams get hot, injuries, can never predict it. But even, everyone full strength, who are they going to clearly be better than? I mean, I'm still like Denver in that. Even Phoenix, I mean, they had a rough time, but with that much talent, and I think you're just going to right the ship eventually. Clippers, we'll have to see what goes on with them, with Paul George. I would say the Warriors are probably near a point where they may blow things up, but even at that, I mean, you look at the Anthony Davis situation, that might be somebody the Warriors could be interested in. They send over Wiggins, maybe Kuminga, although Kuminga's ascending, but that's what I'm talking about. You get a kind of a player that's on the rise like the Thunder did with SGA. Who knows? You never know what they can turn out with the right patience and good environment. I mean, the Lakers are a different beast though, with all the attention they get. But I mean, they had those rough years where you had Jordan Hill and I mean some rough names in there. Year, night in, night out. But I just think, I mean, the Lakers flame out in the second round, and you have, I believe, what is one of the top 10 most expensive rosters. Yeah, so they would fall at the 8th most expensive roster, probably more expensive if they got Trae Young, because he's on a pretty good sized contract. And you're going to lose depth in that too, and at this point you have 40-year-old LeBron. I mean, he's not going to be able to do what he did in 2015. He's going to need, some rotation. He's not Superman. Wheels do come off. Get a little bit slower, get dinged up a little more. I don't know. I just think with the current Lakers moving forward, it may be, we might be it for the LeBron era. They won a title. Don't think anybody can complain about that. I think it's a good chance for them to move on. And, sometimes that's the best thing. Move on, get your assets now. You don't want to wait too late. The Lakers have seen what happens when you hold on a little bit too long. in the past. So I don't know. That's just some thoughts on it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Any more trade ideas? I mean, I was thinking for AD, you might look at the Thunder, may be interested in him. I mean, they've kind of confirmed they don't think Chet's going to be able to run at the 5 all the time. You get a player like AD, takes a lot of the pressure off of him defensively and provides them with a great offensive option. I think with the Thunder, too, I mean, I would almost be scared of falling into a Celtic situation where you hold on to this player, or not this player, my bad, this young group of players and this treasure trove of picks, but you never really make the big move to build around your young players. I mean, you got somebody like SGA. He's there. I mean, people were arguing pretty heavily that he could have been the MVP, and I could have seen that argument for sure. Until you move and get someone like AD, I think that gives you a 2 or 3 year window here where you're going to have serious contending roster, especially with all the assets. I mean, you can add even more talent to that, not to mention all the young players they already have. So I could definitely see that being an option. I think Dallas would love to have him, although I don't know if they have the assets to move to make that happen. But, that depends on the market value as well. I mean, maybe teams aren't as high on Anthony Davis with his injury history, the big contract numbers. I mean, you never know. Although we are kind of back in the big man dominated time, although Celtics didn't really have, they had KP, but he's not Jokic, he's not Embiid. Back to the trade partners, though. I mean, you look at even Minnesota, it's kind of crazy to think about, but would you rather have AD or would you rather have Cat? That's really a good debate. I think Cat's a little more well-rounded on the offense, but defensively it's not even really close. You get AD, who's proven in the playoffs. I just think that that could be a major upgrade for them and their defense then. I mean, Rudy and AD in the paint would be a real nightmare. And then lastly, I kind of had Miami. Miami's always in there looking to kind of take a swing for some major players. Once again, you get a Bam AD combo. That's a really good team. I mean, let's say they give up Hero, some picks. They got a couple other young players that are, doing the Miami thing where they're probably a little bit overvalued, but they're performing. So, they might be able to pull something out like that. But, yeah, like I was saying, I don't think, when it comes to the Bronny situation, I don't really think that's going to be that big of a deal. I mean, there's a report from Rich Paul talking about how the Lakers drafting Bronny doesn't change the situation with LeBron re-signing. So in that sense, I don't think that's going to have a big deal on it, and that kind of makes me lean towards the idea that, LeBron's kind of leaning towards leaving, which opens up a whole nother argument. Where would LeBron end up? What would that look like? I think that might be a good idea for a future video, so I might cover that here soon. Goodness gracious. Let me know what you guys think about that. Like I said in the comments, you have any questions or even, throw your opinion out there. I like to hear different opinions. It's the best way to grow and, kind of see stuff through a different light. But, yeah, I thought we'd talk a little bit about the Lakers' future situation. I'm kind of on the train. I think it's probably best for them to blow it up. And, you've seen how fast these teams can turn around with, like, the Thunder. I mean, yeah, they had some rough years, but then they also had exciting times when they had Russ and PG and Carmelo. I mean, those didn't really pan out, but it was a lot of excitement for them. And then they had a couple quiet years, but here they are. I mean, have the whole league's future in their hands. So I think it might be something to look at for the Lakers. But that's going to be it for today. Thank you guys for hanging out, and I'll see you next time.